Hi, I'm Olivia Mattis, and I would like to welcome you today on behalf of the Sousa Mendes Foundation to a program to do with a fabulous and important film, and what a story. So we here at the Sousa Mendes Foundation, we represent a hero, a rescuer of World War II, Aristides de Sousa Mendes. He was the Portuguese consul general in Bordeaux, France during World War II, and he saved many thousands of lives, including that of my own family. And you see behind me, there's a street sign from Jerusalem. Two of our three speakers are Israeli today. One is coming to us from Israel, another from Italy, and then our third speaker is in New York. So let me tell you who they are. So you will be hearing from our speakers in this order. First of all, TALIYA FINKEL is the filmmaker who made that glorious film called Anna and the Egyptian Doctor that tells the amazing story of the only Arab Muslim yet to be honored as a righteous among the nations by Ydvashem. And Talia here is not only the filmmaker, she is an award-winning filmmaker, but she's more than that because she herself became an activist. She saw the injustice of the fact that Dr. Mohamed Helmy had never been publicly recognized in a ceremony, and she vowed to do something about it using her own funds and her own resources and her own cleverness, and she made it happen. So that's really quite extraordinary, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to show you this film. The problem was that the events that she's describing were not filmed during World War II. So she had to turn to our second guest, Yaron Shin, who is an award-winning artist and animator, so that he could create all the scenes that were missing from the available documentation. So out of his imagination came all this incredible animation that he will walk you through. He will show you his process today. So that's very thrilling and unusual. It's unusual for us to have an animator as one of our speakers. And our third speaker is herself alive, thanks to the hero that we're honoring today. And that's Carla Greenspan. It's Carla's mother, who was Anna, who was rescued by Dr. Mohamed Helmy in Berlin. And Carla is going to tell you her family's story and show you all of the lives that were made possible by this act of righteousness, this act of rescue. So without further ado, let's turn to our filmmaker, Talia Finkel. Talia, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Olivia, and thanks for inviting me here. And thank you everybody for watching the film and being here in this Zoom. I've been a film director for the last 25 years, and this film that you just saw started many years ago in 2013. Mohamed Helmy was recognized as righteous among the nations by Ydvashem, and I read a very small article in the newspaper saying nobody wants to receive this honor on his behalf. So actually this story was fascinating for me because it's very important, as you know, and especially the idea that he did everything to save one soul. And this phrase, which is in the beginning of the film, if you save one life, you save the whole humanity, is something which is very important for me as a vegan, as an activist. And I think it's part of what I think, like, be the change you want to see in the world. Like, if you can't change the whole world, just do something small that you can do. So this is actually the moral, which is very important for me. And at the end, it drove me to make two films about Mohamed Helmy. One of them I made in 2017, and it was only about the history and the rescue story. I wanted to make from the beginning the film that you saw, but I didn't have Nasser. I didn't have the Egyptian side. So I decided to separate the story to two completely different films. And I started working with Yaron on I think it was 2014. So it's now 10 years ago from now. And then we started working. Then at 2016, like 2.5 years later, I decided to make 2 films. So one is the first one you didn't see. It tells only the history and the very rare archive footage. And then in 2016, I actually found Nasser in the way that you see in the film how it was, and I can tell you more in the Q&A about it. It was like thinking from Helmy's mind. I saw that he would make so many plots, and he would work behind the scenes. So I felt it's okay for me to do it as well, to find the Arab side and to find actually Nasser. And Nasser was very, very brave to get my offer, and I did it actually with Carla. We did this Zoom phone call that you see in the film, which was very much corrupted and very funny. But at the end, I saw that actually Nasser can. I thought he might be willing to accept the award and to cooperate with us, and this was a very good bet that I did. And I talked him actually to come to Berlin to meet Carla. So actually, in the film, you see the opposite way, but in the reality, it was first talking with Carla, then going to Berlin. So we have now in a very nice presentation of some pictures of behind the scenes that you can see. This is what we filmed in Berlin in the first meeting of Carla and Nasser. This is in the graveyard, the first meeting. And this is in front of Helmy's house in Berlin. And the next one is in the plate of Helmy's. So I just want to say that now you will see some pictures, but I want to say that for Nasser, it was very, very brave to come with me to accept an offer from an Israeli filmmaker that he didn't know. And so he came, and he's the first ever Arab speaking about the Holocaust in film. And also he was very brave to accept the award, especially when we were not sure until the last moment if the Egyptian side will come or not come. And only in the last day, like 7 hours before the ceremony, they told us that the Egyptian consul is going to come, and we decided to go and to be in the ceremony. So the film could have been ending completely different if that would be what life would make us. And this is how it works in documentaries. You never know what's really going to happen. You can guess, you can decide, you can write a script, but the reality is the reality. And after we made this shooting, it was very vivid what needs to be completed in animation. So then we started to make a very, very vast animation, which Sharon here will tell you about it later. And yeah, so Nasser actually came with me after the film was finished. He came with me to Vienna. Actually, it was in a very, very tense days about I think some months ago in March. Here in Israel, there is a huge war now, and in the middle of all this, Nasser was very brave to come with me to Vienna to stand on the same stage and to talk about the possibility of peace between Jews like Israelis and Arabs, and to talk about humanity and to talk about all these things which are so important for us, for me and for him. And this is why I think this film is so important. And I'm in this project now for 10 years, which is not completely ended. Now it's going in film festivals and in screenings. Here you can see the ceremony, which we could only dream about it. I remember when I met Carla for the first time, she said maybe I can have a phone call with him, with somebody from the Helmy's family, and I said I will do everything that is in my powers to make it happen, and my dream came true. So I'm very proud of it, and I'm very happy that you saw the film. So yeah, so thank you very much, and I am introducing you now to Yaron, which made the fantastic animation. He's collaborating with me now for 10 years. And yeah, so here is it, Yaron.
Okay, thank you, Talia. And hello, everyone. I'm very happy and excited to let you in the process of the art and animation we did for the film. The animation took a very important role in the film because we had a very limited amount of archive materials. So of course we had to cover that, but we also wanted to increase the cinematic and drama and emotional aspect of the film, and animation is really a powerful tool to do that. So let's dig in and go over this process. Slide. Our first step was to understand the key characters and their surroundings by researching how they were, what they did, how they looked, behaved, dressed, etc. Next step was to bring in actors and extras, matching all our key characters. Naturally, we needed costumes for them, makeup, accessories, etc. And then we realized the dramatic events via script and direction instructions while shooting the actors on a green screen. The green screen shooting allows us to relocate the actors and put them again in a digital scene later on. For example, in this slide, you can see Anna act as a nurse in Helmy's clinic treating her patient. This was Helmy's idea to sort of hide her as a nurse and keep her safe beside him. Next one. In this slide, you can see Helmy walk into his inquisition, into the Gestapo headquarters. The use of green screen slide board that you can see helps us to control the motion and perfect the movement of the digital corridor he would be later walking through. Next one. A bright and manipulative idea of Helmy was to convert Anna into Islam in order to erase her from the Nazi deportation lists. In this scene, Anna is sort of getting married in order to deepen her cover. Next one. So we had the actors directed, shot, and edited. And our next mission was to digitally construct Dr. Helmy's world, create the locations and the atmosphere based on our research, but also based on our dramatic aspirations for the film. In this coming loop, you're about to see, you can view Helmy marching as a prisoner into the Gestapo jail, remembering his beloved city Cairo, his homeland Egypt, and his family. All details here are made as a computerized collage, and then Helmy, the actor, is composed into this digital world. It is working script-wise, but it doesn't look good yet. It's a bit funny and cartoonish, and we wanted to make it beautiful. Next slide. So the last step was to retake all those components and redesign them, making everything beautiful, atmospheric, and even fantastic when we want. This should reflect not only the events and facts, but also the emotional aspect of the film. This is the first draft of the design of Helmy's world. You can see him in the middle, walking as a prisoner. Next slide. In this slide, you can see a more accurate design of the same scene, this jail walk. And another one. And in this scene, Helmy, as a prisoner, loses himself in dreams and memories of being young in the city of Cairo. This is exactly what we have just seen in the loop, but fully designed. Next. Next slide, yes. In here, you can see Helmy and Anna outside a mosque in Berlin. I remind you that Helmy and Anna are live actors composed into a totally virtual location. Next. Next slide. Okay, this one. The events, location, and experiences of Helmy and Anna had together during the time of Nazi German are born into life as small pieces of artistic animations and then implemented back into the film. Next one. While he was in jail, Helmy did not stop and kept scheming schemes. Next. Writing personal letters directly to Adolf Hitler. These acts helped him escape the Gestapo and releases himself from jail. Next one. Helmy played a dangerous game with the Gestapo, managing to hide Anna in what we call in plain sight. And another one, another slide. For his actions, Dr. Mohamed Helmy got the greatest award Israel can give, the Righteous Among the Nations Award. The last thing we're going to see is a short sample of everything we've seen so far, composed and fully animated.
Name?
Mohamed Helmy.
Geburtsdatum?
1901.
Religion?
Muslim.
Beruf?
Arzt.
Geburtsort?
Ägypten.
Schuldig des Widerstandes gegen die Staatsgewalt.
Thanks a lot for your time and attention. And now I will hand the floor to Carla Greenspan. I remind you that Clara is the daughter of Anna, our main character in the film. Clara, it's great to see you, and the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that because now I really got to see a little bit more, you know, how it was made, even though TALIYA explained it to me, but I enjoyed it. So thank you. And for all your hard work to both of you. Anyway, hello, everyone. And thank you for joining our discussion today. My name is Carla Greenspan, the daughter of 2 Holocaust survivors. Today, we are focusing on my mom's story of how she survived the Holocaust by being hidden by Dr. Mohamed Helmy in Berlin. Although I was always aware of the story as far back as I can remember, I didn't know many of the details. I don't think I truly understood the gravity and the immeasurable courage and bravery it took by both Dr. Helmy and Emmy, his fiancée at the time, as well as my mother, to get through that very dark time successfully. I remember the flutter of excitement when we periodically received a letter from Dr. Helmy as we all sat around the dinner table listening to my mom read the letter in German. I oftentimes knew that Dr. Helmy deserved the recognition of the righteous among the nations from Ydvashem, but I knew I didn't have any proof or documents, or so I thought. It took over 70 years to find the suitcase that contained the proof. Here you'll see a deportation letter for my grandmother, my mom's Romanian passport, and her German identification card. Amazingly, we found an autobiography from my mother, which clearly shows the efforts made by Dr. Helmy to save my mother's life. Here is an excerpt from that letter. I attended an Aryan school from 1931 to 1938. When I was expelled and had to attend a Jewish school in 1940, I left school, and as a Jew could no longer continue my education. So I stayed at home until 1942. Then the Gestapo pursued me. They imprisoned many others, including many of my friends. They would have imprisoned me too if I had not disappeared on March 10th, 1942, into the home of Dr. Helmy, where I lived illegally until the Russians arrived. Young survivors of the war were anxious to meet and resume normal life, including courting. I love this photo of my mother. She looks so beautiful. As my mother's departure date, oh, here she is courting. That's when she and my father met. As my mother's departure date approached, they decided to secretly get married. My parents and grandparents left Berlin to head to Bremen to board a ship to take them to the US. Only when my mother was safely on board the ship to America did she reveal her marriage to her parents. My father's immigration status changed when he altered his destination from Israel to the United States, causing a 2-year separation from one another. The picture that you see here shows their happy reunion after the 2-year separation. Even more exciting was my first trip to Berlin when I met Dr. Helmy and Emmy, his wife, in person for the first time. I was almost 12 years old, and I remember feeling an immediate closeness and connection with both of them. I felt very happy to be there and met them, even though I'm sure at almost 12 years old, I still did not fully understand what the two of them had done for my family. But somehow I knew they were special. Not only did they help my mom, but they also helped my grandmother Juliana and my great-grandmother Cecilia. I visited them again in 1981, this time with my parents and my husband Barry. I remember how special it was to be together again and the fondness that I felt. In 2013, my brother Charlie appeared at my house. With him, an old suitcase filled with old letters and documents that had sat in his dark basement for many, many years, never even opened. He took it from my parents' house after they passed away and we were cleaning it out, unbeknownst to me. The suitcase was destined to speak again, illuminating the unforgettable and haunting chapter of the Holocaust and its aftermath. It was in this suitcase that we found the letters of testimony that my mom and grandmother wrote to the Berlin Senate, telling of how Dr. Helmy saved their lives. We also found the original stamped conversion papers and marriage certificate of my mother in Arabic that Dr. Helmy had arranged to make every attempt to save her. If you look, the top right paragraph in Arabic translates to the Central Islamic Institute in Berlin under the patronage of His Eminence, the Grand Mufti of Palestine. The bottom section in German reads, with the conversion of Miss Anna Burroughs to the Islamic religion, she has now become a Muslim. As a result, she can enter into a marriage with a Mohammedan according to the religious regulations of Islam. Those original documents have since been donated to Ydvashem in Jerusalem. These treasures gave us insight into their struggles as they started their new lives in new countries. In 2013, Ydvashem recognized Dr. Helmy as righteous among the nations based on the letters that were found in the Berlin archive by Karsten and Sabina Mulder, which were the same exact documents we had hidden in the suitcase all along, but were never aware of. The Mulders had their medical practice in the same building as Dr. Helmy had lived and practiced in, and they had heard rumors from neighbors that Jews were hidden there during the war. After many years, when they retired, they decided to investigate, which led them to the Berlin archives. They sent their findings to Ydvashem, and the rest is history, as they say. This opened a whole new chapter to the story. It was then that I met TALIYA FINKEL, an Israeli filmmaker from Jerusalem. It was with her help and determination that she found Dr. Nasser Kotby, Dr. Helmy's great nephew, who was willing to accept the award from Ydvashem. Prior to that, none of the relatives found by Ydvashem were willing to accept the award. That's how I got to meet Dr. Nasser. And together we visited the places in Berlin that were pertinent to the story. It was through this experience that I was able to learn more details of my mom's story, filling in some of the blanks. There will always be mysteries and unanswered questions surrounding my mother's story, but now I know so much more than I did before, and for that I am grateful. Meeting Dr. Nasser turned out to be way more thrilling than I ever could have imagined. I felt this immediate connection to him, similar to what I felt when I met Dr. Helmy himself as a child. I thank TALIYA for all her hard work in making our meeting a reality, as well as for the award ceremony we had in October of 2017. That was also an experience I will never forget. So now we have come full circle, and Dr. Helmy's name is where it should rightfully be, recognized as the only Arab Muslim to hold the honor of righteous among the nations. My family and I feel much gratitude to Dr. Helmy and Emmy for their brave and heroic actions, which surely saved my mother's life. If not for Dr. Helmy's intelligent actions to outsmart the Nazis, myself and my two brothers, as well as all our children and grandchildren, would not exist today. He acted according to his heart and stood up to evil in the darkest of times to help my family. We hope this story will be a catalyst for peace at last among all peoples of the world, so that we all could live in a kinder, more loving world.
Wow. Well,
Thank you. Thank you.
Carla, you've touched my heart, and I think the heart of everybody here in this room.
Well, it's just the true feelings, you know.
So right now, I'd like to invite the audience to continue putting their questions into the chat box. We'll be getting to your questions in a few minutes. I have some announcements to make, so that'll give you time to formulate your questions, and then I'll be gathering them and asking them of our wonderful, talented, fabulous panelists. So first of all, we have one more program upcoming in the month of August. It's in 2 weeks' time, Sunday, August 25th. And so on that program, we're going to look at Jewish resistance during World War II. It's a topic that we come back to periodically during our Sunday programs. It's a very, very important and very large topic. There's so much to say about it. And in particular, we're showing this brand new film that's been making the rounds of the film festivals and winning all these awards. It's called Resistance, They Fought Back. The filmmaker, her name is Paula Apsell. If any of you know PBS and the Nova series that ran for all these years, probably still runs. She was the director of Nova for 25 years. And so it's done with forensics. I mean, it's done with all the latest technology to try to uncover lost stories of World War II. And it's something you will not want to miss. In addition to the filmmaker on that program, we have 2 people whose mothers are featured in the film. So we have the son of Bella Hazan and the son of Vlad Kamid. And Vlad Kamid is one of the heroes that we here at the Sousa Mendes Foundation have been promoting. We have this deck of cards that we've created called Heroes of the Holocaust, Rescuer Playing Cards. And she is our Queen of Spades, I think, in the deck of cards. And so we have her living son to tell us her story. And so just like today, you'll be very moved to see the film and hear these people's stories. And so in just a moment, we'll be playing you a trailer for that film. But first, I wanted to mention something else. Today is our first program that we've had since I got back from Portugal. Why was I in Portugal? Because we opened a museum there. The Aristides de Sousa Mendes Museum. How many righteous rescuers have their own museum? Well, guess what? Our rescuer has a museum, and it was a thrilling experience to be at the inauguration. And so in September, we're going to present you with a free program. This is going to be mid-September, September 15th. I'm still putting it together, but it's going to be a virtual tour of the new Sousa Mendes Museum. And I hope you'll tell all your friends and that you'll sign up. But right now, we're going to show you a little trailer for the film Resistance, They Fought Back.
You have a contradiction between what people thought and what actually happened.
People have this myth stuck in their heads that the Jews went to their deaths like sheep to the slaughter. But this is where the real story begins.
Can't say that the Jews were silent. That's absolute nonsense. The Jews were armed. They were ready to resist.
We were happy because we were free and we were fighting back.
It's hard to excavate, but we are sure there are weapons still in these places.
It took so much courage, unbelievable courage.
The prisoners were able to collect a number of knives and very primitive grenades.
I'm not yielding to the situation. Whatever you do that is against the situation is resistance.
This is perhaps the single most important site for the understanding of Jewish resistance during the Holocaust.
The teachers that stayed with their students, the doctors that stayed with their patients, did they go like sheep to the slaughter? Or did they take care of those they were responsible to unto their last breath?
So this is a story that gives you power to live.
Jews did not go as sheep to the slaughter. They fought back.
So after today's program, you will be getting an email with information about how to sign up for that program. So now to your questions, and there's so many questions in the chat box, I almost don't know where to start. So we don't recognize raised hands. We do ask you to type out your questions, and we will get to as many as we can. I think there's plenty of time for questions, which is wonderful. So let's go through. There are a number of questions having to do with Dr. Nasser, and basically, okay, so here's one that says, can you speak about any lasting repercussions of Dr. Nasser accepting the award? And somebody else says, I did not see any of Dr. Nasser's friends or family with him in Berlin. How do they feel about his acceptance of the award? So if somebody could speak about that.
Yeah, so actually, Dr. Nasser had one nephew. His name is Samir. he came with him to the ceremony, and he came with us to several events in Vienna. And the family of Dr. Helmy is very, very large. So Dr. Helmy was the I think he was the 8th of 9 brothers and sisters, 9 siblings. Each of the siblings had many, many children. So they don't know, like Nasser doesn't know all the family. And all the siblings are dead already. So what we have now is the grandkids and the kids of the siblings. So Nasser is actually the how do you say, the grandchild of Helmy's sister. Okay, so it's like 3rd generation. But as Helmy was one of the youngest, so and Nasser was the grandchild of one of the older sisters, so they knew each other, because when Nasser was studying to be a doctor, he did it in Europe, and he actually met Helmy several times. So the part of the family that Nasser knows is very small. And for example, he doesn't know some of the people which are in the film. Actually, I'm not sure if it's in the short version, but in the cinematic version, I do show some of the interview with Helmy's family, and some of the people which said to the newspapers that they are not willing to accept any award. So they don't know Nasser, and Nasser doesn't know them. Of course, you know many other parts of the family, but when you start a research, you don't know how you are going to get. So I don't know about the side that Nasser doesn't know about, but his family, we made some kind of a Zoom show to them when the film was made, for him and for the family. And also we had a very nice screening in Cairo in the Foreign Affair Ministry of German, the German Foreign Affair Ministry in Cairo. Wow. So Nasser came to that, and some diplomats and some of his family. So they liked the film, and they were supportive to Nasser. And before the ceremony, when it was leaked out several days before the ceremony, because I actually wanted to keep it as much as a secret as possible, and I told everybody not to say anything about it until the last day, because I was very much afraid that journalists were going to come and chase us during the filming. And I said, I put so much effort into making all this. I don't want to have so many interruptions of people want to speak to him here, and then he or Carla will come very tired to the shooting, to the places that we were. So I wanted everything to be as natural as possible. And I realized that if journalists will know that we are all in Vienna, they would like us to speak. And so when it was leaked out, so people were writing about it, and Nasser was getting phone calls from home, and they said they don't know what is going to be and how it will be. And because of that, he said if there is not Egyptian side, he is not going to attend. So this was last minute miracle that he could attend to this.
And that is sort of the central crisis in the film, that suddenly the ambassador's not coming, so they have to find a substitute. What happened? How come that ambassador didn't show up?
At the end, we found out that his mother died and he needed to go back to Cairo, but nobody told this to us, So to us, they said he's canceling it, he's not going to come. So what can you do? Like, nobody would tell us the details. And they said that they are looking for a substitute for him. But until the last moment, there was no substitute for him until several hours before the ceremony. So we decided we will not come. And I said to Carla, let's give Nasser a present or something, and let's make like our own ceremony and film it, and then it will be in the film. And it was awful. Like, we didn't know what to do. Like, Carla can say about it also. But at the end, it was spontaneous, and I think it was very good. And for me and for Carla, it was a dream come true that it happened.
Anything you want to add to what TALIYA just said?
Well, exactly like she said, it was very, we were working up to that. We knew that was going to be at the end. And then like right before, it was like it wasn't going to happen. So we were like very disappointed and, felt sad. But then at the last moment, it did happen. So it was very exciting. And yeah, for me, I didn't know it was really going to be that exciting, because TALIYA said to me, don't you want to meet one of, Dr. Helmy's relatives to say thank you? And I said, I met Dr. Helmy. I already met Dr. Helmy twice. I don't need to meet his relative. It's not that important to me, And she kept saying, well, don't you think it would be great? And I was like, yeah, it would be great. But like, I didn't really understand. It was a shock to me that it turned out so great. It was very thrilling. He had pictures of him in the same places that I had pictures of me, right in front of their house. There was pictures of him that like you saw it was with him. It was amazing. And he's a very special guy also, and
a ton of other questions. I don't know how many we'll get to, but let's give it a try. One is a historical question, and I don't know which of the three can really address this. And that has to do with the persecution of Muslims by Nazis. Was there persecution? I mean, in the film, it seems that the Muslims were left alone. Is that in fact true?
So this is something which I talk about in my first film, more about the Muslim community in Berlin. So when the Nazis started, the government of Egypt said to all the Egyptians in Berlin, come back. And they actually paid them to come back. It was no planes at that time, so they needed to, it was very hard to come back. And in Berlin stayed only 400 Egyptians, 400 Muslims. Some of them Egyptians, 400 Muslims, not all of them Egyptians, Muslims from different Arab countries. So there were not so much, and these 400 that stayed usually had like higher positions. So like Dr. Helmy, who was a doctor, and some other son of important Arab priest, and one very important guy in the radio. So people that actually had good positions and they were kind of safe. So this is why they were not so much persecuted. And there is an interesting story in my first film about how they like, but I will not tell you this now because we don't have time.
Okay. But maybe I'm thinking of the same story, which has to do with the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem that Carla had mentioned in one of the documents. So there is that meeting between the Grand Mufti and Hitler in Berlin. And so did Anna and Dr. Helmy actually meet the Grand Mufti? Tell us that story, because it's not in this film that they saw, and I want the audience to know the story.
So this, like, sometimes when you make a documentary based on written documents, you don't have the whole story, but you have very small parts of the story. And being a filmmaker, you need to feel it out and to give it some life. So what we know from documents that the Mufti was in Berlin, and we know from some documents that he met an Arab doctor. And probably Helmy was one of the only two Arab doctors in Berlin. And then Charlie, Carla's brother, said something about Anna going to the Gestapo headquarters. And he heard this story when he was very young. Carla, you can correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong
he
about
was
it.
young. I didn't know it. He knew it. Yeah.
So from this, I figure out basically that he might have met the Mufti. And if that would happen, I thought, how would it happen? And then Yaron came into the picture, and we made it out how it happened, because actually it shows how dangerous it was for her to go to be undercover, like in plain sight. That's actually the name of the first film, Muhammad and Anna, in plain sight. So she was not hiding; she was absolutely in plain sight, going with her face, doing her job, but pretending to be Nadia, not Anna. So this is how it was. We don't have like real evidence of Helmy writing, I met the Mufti. We don't have this, but we do have the story of Charlie, and we do know from documents that the Mufti met an Arab doctor. So this is how it came together.
Because if it happened as depicted in your other film, where Dr. Helmy brings Anna undercover as a Muslim nurse to meet the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem in the Gestapo headquarters, well, you can imagine that that was probably the most frightening thing imaginable. And so anyway, so Yaron uses his imagination to come up with the Gestapo headquarters with the swastika maze-like thing. Anyway, you've created a masterpiece that is some combination of reality and imagination.
So actually, I can say some things about that, because the idea, or like how we came out with this method of animation, is I was thinking I would really love to have some more archive footage, which we didn't have. We only had some pictures and some archive footage that I researched for my last film. So I knew how it looked. And then I said, Yaron said, if we do this method of rotoscoping with real people wearing real outfits from the 40s, and then we put them in environments that were cut and made from real pictures from the 40s, it will look like archive, but then it can look like it can have the roughness of archive, but also the symbolism of animation. And then this is how it came together. Everything came together.
And Yaron, there's so many comments from people in the audience who are just praising your delightful animation. So I want to make sure that you know all about that.
Thank you.
And I have a question for Anna, which really is for Carla, which is, so how much of this did you actually know? I mean, your mother had converted to Islam. She'd married a Muslim. She, she had the secret marriage to your dad that was then announced on the boat. I mean, wow, what a life your mother lived. So how much of this did you actually know?
Okay, well, I knew that Dr. Helmy converted her to Islam. That she told me. I never knew she had any paper, let alone in Arabic. You can imagine my shock when my brother brought that suitcase and I opened it, and I could not believe when I came across those papers in Arabic. I was like, oh my God, like I couldn't believe it. And it had like the raised stamp on it, like from the official, Islamic whatever. And then I didn't know the other paper was the marriage certificate. So that was something I learned through this process. She never told me that she also got married to someone, on paper to help deepen her cover. That is something I learned by this whole process. So that was something I didn't know. I did know that she didn't tell her parents about the marriage till on the boat. That I do know. But the marriage was, of course, a shock, and very shocking was when I saw Arabic papers in the suitcase. That was something I never expected.
So obviously it was very important for her to bring you to meet Dr. Helmy, and there was this correspondence back and forth.
Right.
So, I guess there was some sort of love between them because he had saved her life, right?
I would say so, yeah. They were very close, and also with Emmy. Like, I think Emmy and her were like best friends sort of thing. You know, they were like I could feel it even as a child when I was like almost 12. Like I was like 2 months before my 12th birthday. I could just feel it, you know, like it was really amazing.
So now this is another historical question from one of our audience members who says, I didn't quite understand the scheme to marry Anna to Helmy's friend. His friend was already married, but had he gotten married abroad so nobody would know in Germany that he was already married? How come the Nazi authorities nullified that marriage? Can any of you answer that?
I mean, I think that, you know, they picked him, you know, just to have a name, you know, on a marriage certificate. But the problem is the German government, they got a letter afterwards stating they don't recognize this marriage. Being the groom is from a foreign country, he has to be able to prove that he doesn't already have a wife. And because he's not proving it, they don't recognize the marriage.
And do you keep in touch with Nasser today, Carla?
Yeah, we do. We do mostly WhatsApp, you know. Yeah, he's a very sweet guy, mostly WhatsApp. I actually was supposed to go visit him in Cairo. I had a ticket for October 12th of last year. And as you know, that got canceled. And I keep waiting for things to calm down so that I can redo the trip that I was supposed to do. But I don't know that I feel so comfortable to go there right now. I'm sort of waiting to let the dust settle.
So Yaron, when you were brought into this project, how much did you know about this history and what surprised you as you were putting together the whole visual world for the movie?
I didn't know anything about this story of Mohamed Helmy. And when TALIYA started letting me in the script, I was amazed because I felt that we have like an action movie with a drama and a thriller. And also at the background, there is this love story of Mohamed Helmy and Amy. That they couldn't marry because of I think in Nazi in Nazi German it was impossible for him to marry Amy. Am I right, Talia? Right?
Yes.
So even there is
because they were from different two races. She was Aryan and he was Arab.
Yeah, and even we have an happy end that so they got married after the Nazis were defeated. So when I was learning about all those things and talking to TALIYA about the lack of, we were talking about the lack of archive material, and we thought about how to make something that from one hand would be kind of serious and take the would look like archive and use archive. All the backgrounds, all the houses are cut from images. And then still there is this action thriller, crazy story in here that we need to push forward, bring lots of emotion and drama into it. So the outcome was a combination of something fantastic and something very on the ground, with legs on the ground in a way. And the process was long and tiring, but I think rewarding. And we have something like almost 130 viewers in here in this session. And I can tell you this secret about animation. Animation would not make a bad film a good film. Would never do that to a film. A film needs to first of all needs to be good. And TALIYA's film was already good with or without my animation in it. So animation can lift it up and elevate it and improve it, but cannot change the content and cannot change the core of the movie. And the script was amazing, and everything seems so strange and unbelievable for me too. And I work for this theme, Holocaust, and I work with lots of directors about projects like that, I never knew this story. It was like for me, it's like a journalist scoop. So it took us a lot of time to create it, but sitting in a big theater and seeing on a 9-meter screen, amazing experience for me, fantastic.
Yes. And we've done a program about the Holocaust's reach into North Africa, into Libya, and some of the Arab countries there, and some of the rescue stories, but none of those people were ever made righteous among the nations. So really this Dr. Helmy is the one and only. So it's quite an important story that should be told and widely told, especially in the times we live in now. So we're getting to the end of the hour, and I'd like to turn to all three panelists for their final thoughts. So Carla, let's start with you. What would you like to say in closing to our audience?
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to view the movie. And I hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. And I hope that we could spread something positive for everybody from the movie. And that's really it. What more could I say? Thank you also, for helping to prepare this presentation. And thanks for everything. It was great.
And so, someone's asking how you were raised, Carla. You were raised Jewish by your mother, I presume, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, my mother and father are Jewish. Yes, of course. In the beginning, I went to yeshiva as a young child, but then I hated it desperately. And after many years of protests, they took me out and put me in regular public school. And then I went to Hebrew school, typical, had a bat mitzvah, we had all our relatives in Israel. So we went to Israel a lot. So I was very aware that I was Jewish, let's say that.
Okay. So Anna clearly kept her Jewish identity throughout all of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yaron, what would you like to say to our audience in closing?
Yeah, I would like to say that when I'm doing an animation, the process is in my hand and in my computer, and everything is just, it's work. But in this occasion, I've been asked to create a presentation of the process. And so Olivia and also Matthew, thank you for that, because I'm looking at my own process and it's built up and I even me finding it interesting. So thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Okay, and there are people who want to show this film in various film festivals. So I'll forward all that information to you, Talia, and then I presume you'll be in direct contact and follow up. So Talia, the brilliant filmmaker, tell us what you'd like to say in closing to our audience.
Well, thank you very, very much. For me, each of these screenings, when people see the film, it's like helping me actually, like Carla said, close the circle after these 10 years. And, there were times that I didn't even think that I would finish the film, and I didn't have the funds to finish it, and I took huge loans, but I really, you can say in Hebrew that somebody he can suicide on this project. So I actually suicided on this project because I think the story is so important, not only for me but for the world. So I invite each of you to tell about it to your friends, and I really hope that the world and Israel and politicians and all the bad people around can learn some lesson from this, and I really hope the world will become a better place. And Nasser, which is not here with us on this Zoom, so it's really important for me, to say about him that he and Carla were like amazing collaborators with me. They trusted me fully. They came with me to this crazy journey, like Carla said, that we didn't know how it's going to end, except that I had a script which was good. Like I knew what I want to tell in the story and how I want to tell it, but the reality is the reality. And actually, Nasser, I want to tell everybody that Nasser wrote a book in Arabic about first-hand memories from Dr. Helmy. And in the film, I used parts of Nasser's book. I translated it to Hebrew to understand, that's my language, to understand what he was talking about. And I think, like, I thought that if I'm still hunted in a way by this project, so I would really like to help him to publish his book in English and to make it of some kind of an art album, like to put also photos and from the film, from the animation, and real documents, and to make it. So if you go on my website, you can see a link for that and a campaign to make it. I don't know if we make it and when we make it, like I hope we can make it, but I think it's important to have something like that in addition to the film. And also, I'm very happy to hear people. You can contact me on my Facebook, on my website, and tell everybody. Yeah, and thank you very much.
What is your website address, please?
It's www.taliyafinkel.com.
Okay,
I can write it on the chat.
No, Matthew just put it in the chat box, so it's there. TALIYAFINKEL.com.
I gave it to Matt before.
Yeah, it's there. We put it in the chat.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
it's right there. And I wanted to thank you all for this fascinating hour. Thanks, Carla, for saying yes to Taliya, to agree to be filmed, to introduce yourself to Nasser, even though you'd already met Dr. Helmy. Without you in the film, probably it would have been a different film. And Yaron, Taliya, thank you so much for your brilliant artistry. And thank you to our audience. See you again on August 25th. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. I wish you peace. Be well. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.